Greetings everyone. Welcome to the 258th session of the online Optom learning series OOLS. And today we have with us Uma Mageswari. Uma is a professional education specialist at Johnson& and Johnson Vision. Her role is dedicated to facilitating continuous learning and professional growth within Johnson& and Johnson Vision Care. Prior to her role, she was an academician, a program leader for the Bachelor of Science honors program of optometry at Segi University in Malaysia, and I had the privilege to work with her for almost a decade at Segi University. Professionally, she also holds a fellowship by the International Association of Contact Lens Educators. I think it's been 2 years she holds this vehicle status and actively involved in advocacy of optometry, in making sure people's optimum vision and eye health is achieved. And today she's gonna take us through a journey, I would say, in letting us know the tips and tricks about perfecting the multifocal contact lens fittings for our patients and share the insights on what we can bring to practice from tomorrow. So welcome Uma onto our platform, and I'm just gonna leave the screen time to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Fakhruddin, for this very kind introduction, and also for the invitation to be the speaker here with you. And thank you, everyone who has joined us today. And in the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to take you on a journey towards perfecting some multifocal fitting to be successful, right? And this is going to be a very relaxing session, yeah. So I invite you to just sit back and follow me as we explore on how to prepare ourselves as an ECP, right? And also to prepare the patient, right? The expectation that we set for them, and also some tips and tricks that I will share on how you can have a satisfying yet a successful multifocal fitting today. Okay, so without further ado, we'll jump into the journey. And just for disclosure, as mentioned by Fakhruddin, I'm currently an employee of Johnson& and Johnson Vision Care, and the deck that we are viewing today is Johnson& Johnson Resources, and my talk reflects both our official clinical data and also my own experience in this field. All right. All right, so perfecting multifocal success, right, in this digital age. And what we are going to talk about today is going to be revolving around these three topics, which is we're going to talk about a little bit on the ECP readiness or the mindset readiness, and then we're going to look into some critical steps and assessment that we need to make sure that we perform while fitting multifocal contact lens, and also what kind of expectations should we set to the patients, right? Okay, so understanding the presbyopic opportunity. Growing up, right, I used to remember my mom did many chores like sewing, gardening, crochets, cleaning, walk in the park, cycling. There's so many activities that we did back in the 90s when there was no phone or there was no such thing called digital era, right? And everything of this activity has now vanished, or people don't really do it, or people do it only when they need to, right? And people spend a lot of time on their gadgets, scrolling away their phones, and getting a lot of information in their fingertips, and that became a task nowadays, right? So in this digital age, it feels like many adults complain of eye strain or sometimes even blur in near vision much earlier in their life. So if you realize as an ECP, you will actually see people complaining even in their late 30s. They are already saying they are having some kind of eye strain or blur vision near, right? And this task that they are doing, which is scrolling over the phone, right, it kind of mimics a pre-presbyopic state, or they even become one before they turn 40. So here we got to understand the trend and also the opportunity that is there for presbyopic patients, right? So let's just zoom out a little bit. And we look at global data. So this is the data, a study done in the US, UK, Russia, Japan, South Korea, and China. So it's a combination of, the Western and the Eastern data, right? So you can see that the presbyopic opportunity is about 32 million patients that are age 45 plus. They are all interested in contact lens wear, right? So the population is vast. Many people are interested to continue wear contact lens or to stay on wearing the multifocal lenses, right? However, less than 10% are actually wearing the multifocal contact lens. So you can see that to retain these patients to continue wearing the multifocal contact lens hasn't been easy. From 32 million, less than 10%. So you can see that the opportunity is vast. So this is definitely a global data. I can tell you similarly, it's in Malaysia. Where we are now, right? So people in Malaysia are actually turning into becoming presbyopic. Those that been wearing contact lens in their 30s, in their 20s are now, in their 40s, where they wish to continue to stay and wear contact lenses, right? Okay, so you can see here, this is another data, right? They say that 40% of current contact lens wearers are about 40 plus. So among the contact lens wearers, 40% of them are in the presbyopic age. And 94% of that 40%, meaning all of them, almost all of them, right? They expect or they want to be a contact lens wearer. They want to continue to wear their contact lens. So all these 40% that we have fitted with sphere lens or toric lens before this, they want to continue to wear lenses, which is our biggest opportunity. And the data shows otherwise. Half of this 40% that is interested to wear, they fall into the dropout category, meaning they discontinue. They do not continue to wear multifocal anymore. So there is a big trend here. Why and what? So we need to really up our skills. We need to understand what patient wants and how we can help them in every opportunity that we get. Okay, so before we go into the serious part, I would like to just ask you to try this on your own. So if you're watching and your hands are free and you can just try this. So use your right hand and just draw a little box. You can just use your finger or the whole hand. Okay, doesn't matter. So I want everyone to try. Just try to draw a box. Easy, right? Okay, now use your left hand to draw a circle. So I believe you guys are doing it. So one hand is drawing boxed earlier and now you draw a circle. Okay, everyone can? Yeah, that was easy as well. Okay, let's try doing both. Right? Can you try? One hand is doing circle and the other hand is doing a box. You see, I'm struggling myself, right? Yeah. So why am I asking you to do this exercise is that this is a way I can demo to you what happens when a patient goes or does monovision with their contact lenses. So there are many people, right? They cannot tolerate multifocal and they tend to prescribe themselves or, ECP tend to prescribe monovision. So what monovision does is that one side of their eyes have to do a square, which is looking at distance, right? For an example. And the other side does a circle, which is looking at near. So when you do both together, your brain goes into some kind of an overdrive, right? And this monovision method is not sustainable, right? So I think this is a good way that you can demonstrate to your patients when they come in that why they should start wearing the multifocal instead of doing a monovision, right? So it is the best to directly hop them on a multifocal journey, okay? All right. Who doesn't want a more happy patient, right? Every one of us love this, right? It feels very gratifying, right, to have a smiling patient who thinks that you're a genius, right? Because you solved a problem they didn't even thought that it was solvable. And you know, these patients, they didn't even realize that that is going to be a problem, like, reaching 40 and unable to see at near, and they're feeling frustrated, and you come there like a genius solving their problem. And that gratifying feeling is, it's what we always wanted, right? And helping them continue to live their life without being totally dependent on their pals or their readers is just the biggest opportunity, right? And this is very rewarding, right? Professionally as well as financially, right? And it can sometimes feel a little bit intimidating, but I hope that now that we will navigate this session today, you will find some useful information that you can put in practice. Okay, so let's review some of the tips, right, to help you get this fast. So, first thing first is that you have to start with easy tips. Example, you have to ease into traffic. So let me tell you, I believe that during this holiday, many of you traveled, right? Took some day off and you did some traveling. Either you went back home or you went for holidays, right? So there's many travels that happen. Okay. And when you do that, when you travel, you always plan your time early. That do you, right? You want to always leave early. You want to make sure that you don't get stuck in the traffic. You plan your timing, correct? So when you first start multifocal contact lens, the best way is to start young, start early, right? Because when the person is in their late 30s or in their 40s, they are still very highly motivated, they are employed, they need their near work very much, right? And also, there is less visual disturbance, right? And their tears are still very good. So they have a better optical quality whenever they are prescribed with multifocal lenses. And everything works easy because you have start early. Okay. So first thing first is start early. And you can see that when you start early, your additions power is small, right? You will start with a low ad. So a low ad is actually much more forgiving to the eyes, and there will be easier adaptation to the optics of the lens itself, right? So you got to make sure that you perform a fresh spherical equivalent, spherical refraction, right? And then get the spherical equivalent, and then, move forward to do the contact lens part. Okay, so ease into traffic, meaning you start young and start early. That's the first tip ever. Okay, and then, so let's say you were traveling to meet your relatives, right? So it is only ideal if you actually tell your relative what's your ETA, estimated time of arrival, right? And so that, this receiving family or receiving person, they can get prepared, or they know when you're coming, what are they expecting, what time are they expecting, right? So being a very good navigator means that you have to communicate accurately. Okay. And what you need to do is that you got to predict presbyopic changes early. So if you have a customer or a patient in their late 30s, you can already start this conversation with them about their presbyopic changes that they will eventually face. We all know, as an ECP, people will face presbyopic situation 40, 45. They will start to have near vision problem. So when you have someone with early age, like in their 38, 37, you can start communicating with them and set the expectation, so at least they are now prepared. They know what's going to happen in the future. All right. And some people, they are just arriving to you on time, meaning when they are feeling that you are, I mean, when they are feeling that they are having problem at near, then they come look for you. That is okay. So what you can do is that you can always, plan out for them, plan on how to deal with their near vision problem. So they are just on time arrival. So you can directly put them on a multifocal and directly guide them what to do next, right? So you will still look very smart because you are trying to solve their problems, right? And then there is this other group of people who are the latecomers or the late arrivals, right? So they come to you in their 50s and they tell you they want to try contact lens. So here, all you can do is that you should not overpromise, right? You should keep your conversation in a way that you would try to get them on board. However, you can't overpromise them. If you overpromise them, you will be in trouble. So make sure you really agree on realistic and specific goals for your contact lens wearers who are latecomers, right? And let them know that adaptation takes time and you need to do some changes in the prescription along the way, and also you need to have follow-ups. So these kind of things you have to make sure that you communicate with them. Okay, so setting patient expectation, there is 4 main points here. First thing first is to identify the specific goals, right? What do they want to achieve? Do they need near vision clear, or can they compromise on the distant vision, or is it the other way around? We have to make sure we identify specific goals, right? And then we set very, very clear expectation. Don't be afraid of a patient taking offense that you are trying to tell them that they can't see after this, they need all that. Don't take it that way. Try to keep it very professional and set very clear expectation of what is going to happen. So you should always say that these lenses allow you to be spectacle free, right? You don't have to put on the glasses and, feeling all that discomfort. So it allow you to be spectacle free. And also you will be able to do 80% of your daily activities, just like normal. You can do 80% of it like normal, but many of my patients, they achieve 100% of their activities with these contact lenses. So that gives them the hope, that gives them the motivation to try on the contact lenses, the multifocal contact lenses, right? And then the third thing that most of us tend to forget is that we tend to forget to set the expectation for follow-up. So whether it's virtual or face-to-face, we have to make sure we tell them why is follow-up very important in multifocal fitting. So it is not just buy and go kind of a situation. Multifocal is a journey, and they have to be committed to ECP to make sure that we are hand in hand helping them to achieve their 100% of their daily activities. Okay, and the fourth expectation would be during the follow-up conversation or the follow-up session, you have to revisit the specific goals, and you have to make sure the specific goals are met, or is there any other new goals that you need to adjust, or is there any other you know needs that the patient needs that you have to address at that point. So these are the 4 patient expectation that is very important for us to set in every multifocal patients, right? And a tip here, you have to eagerly engage pre-presbyopic patient. And like I said, if you're seeing a patient who is 37 years old, and you can start talking about multifocal to them, and actually it takes a few years for patient to actually accept that they are presbyopia, they are going through presbyopia, and then commit to multifocal contact lens. So it is very important to communicate early. Okay, so once we have set the expectation, now comes the critical steps, which is learn how to optimize the fitting, right? So I want to invite you all to join me in a poll. Okay, I would like to ask, do you use duochrome method for best vision sphere?
So I see that 80% of them do use duochrome for best vision sphere, whereas about 20% of them are not using it at this point in time.
Yep. So this is true. So I've done this talk a few times elsewhere, and I've seen the similar trend. So 80-20. Okay, so there's still 20% of them haven't used duochrome for their method. That's okay. Let me tell you why is it important to use duochrome. So sorry, yeah. So first thing first, right? You got to make sure that you perform a fresh spherical refraction in an ambient light whenever you want to start on this multifocal journey. And when you do this spherical refraction, you have to make sure that you avoid over minusing the sphere, right? So how to avoid this over minusing? The method could be this red-green balance that you can do, right? So that you know for sure you are not giving the extra minus to the patients, right? And then obviously we will apply the vertex distance and we will do the spherical equivalent, or we can just use the digital calculator that is available in every manufacturer's fitting guideline, right? And then that will calculate for you the spherical equivalent as well as the vertex distance, right? And the other thing is that you have to ensure that the cylindrical power is less than 0.75 to get a comfortable fitting or comfortable vision with multifocal lenses. So as many of you may already know that now the new innovation, there is a lens with multifocal and toric. So yet to come in Malaysia. Once it's in Malaysia, then obviously it'll be great for us to support those with higher astig with multifocal toric lenses. Okay, so when it comes to fitting maximum plus, right? So what I usually do is that with red green, what I will do once I finish my subjective refraction, I'll just occlude one eye and I will add plus O50 directly into one eye. Just add plus O50. And with this, patient should be already seeing the red being darker and clearer compared to the green, right? So from then on, I will actually add minus O25 in single steps, right? I will add one by one until the patient reports that the chart is now both clear. That means the red and green is now equal, right? And what if the equal is not achieved? If the green is better, then I will just revert back adding a plus O25 again to stop at the last rate for presbyopic patient. Okay, so you always stop at the last rate to make sure that you are not leaving it at to make sure that you are leaving it at most plus. Okay, so that's how we do it. And so this is just a diagram to show you, right? If you see the diagram A, this is when the patient has got too much plus, right? So that's when the red side would be darker, right? And the image B is showing that the balance is achieved, right? The red and green is in equidistance, hence both will look same. And the image C is actually showing you too much minus, and where the green would look darker and clearer compared to the red, right? So if the balance is not achieved, we always leave the presbyopic on the last red, right, as a rule of thumb. Okay, so hope you remember that, and try to make sure you practice this duochrome so that you can keep it as most plus with their sphere refraction. Okay, Let's move on to the second poll. The second poll is about what is your usual method of ocular dominancy? So we know that when we fit multifocal contact lens, we have to measure ocular dominancy. So there's two ways of measuring it, which is the sighting technique, which is, keeping your hand in a triangular shape and trying to look into a distant object with the hole that you have created with the triangle. Or the other one is the blur test or the sensory dominance test, which is the +1 or +150 method, right? So the poll is out.
Also, 40% of the attendees are using the sighting technique, whereas the remaining 60% are using the blur test method or sensory dominancy.
Yes. Thank you, Fakhruddin. Yeah, so I see that 60% is using the sensory method, which is great. I feel like this poll answers have shifted. Last time, everyone, I think it's about 80-20 where everyone said sighting technique. So at least, the ECP belief is now sensory method is also the right way. So, okay, let me just get into it. I can explain why. So usually the manufacturer variation with addition is very crucial. And selecting the near ad with different lens type is actually different, right? So you can see an example here. This particular power, -50, 150 right eye and -2, 050 still 180 on left eye, and the addition is 2 to 5. And you can see that the ocular dominance is right eye. And you can see that the power or the addition power that is given from brand to brand actually different. So the different approach for enhancing the distance and near vision is also different, right? So it is very important to make sure that we are selecting the ocular dominance method the correct way, right? So because the add value actually depends on your ocular dominance, which eye is dominance, and how would they give or how would they prescribe the add power in the lens, right? So why sensory dominance is important compared to the sighting method, right? So basically the sighting method forces the patient to choose between two eyes, right, when they are focusing on a target. While the sensory method or the blur test, right, it has an advantage to actually simulate binocular summation as well as the disparity, and it determines which eye is more sensitive to blur, right, to the plus blur or plus defocus. So sensory method is highly recommended when it comes to fitting multifocal and determining the ocular dominance. So please remember this, ocular dominance for multifocal fitting, don't just do this. I know this is faster, but don't do this. Make sure that you do the plus technique, and the blurrer eye is the dominant eye, because with binocular summation the eye can determine greater sensitivity whenever it's blur. Okay, so you can see that sensory dominance and sighting dominance actually can differ up to almost 40% of the time. So that's a very big percentage that, you don't want to do the mistake and get confused with your, adjustment later and enhancement later. So that just make sure the ocular dominance is done with the sensory method. Let's go on a poll. This is like a small little test to all of you. So we will do a sensory dominant test here. A +1 was placed alternatively between both eyes over their fresh subjective refraction. Okay, so this is how they determine the dominancy. They place a +1 alternatively between both eyes, and you got to ask patient which eye is blurrier, left eye or right eye. And here, patient has reported that left eye is blur and right eye is blurrier. So the question is, which is the dominant eye? So I can see the answers coming up. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I think we have 85% of the attendees saying right eye is the dominant eye, whereas the remaining 15% are saying the left.
Okay, so that's great because the answer is right eye. So the blurrier eye, okay, that will be more sensitive to the blurriness when you put in, that is the dominant eye. So whichever eye that is very sensitive to blur, that is dominant eye, right? So moving forward, be fuel efficient. So you remember we were going on a journey. So every time when you drive, you make sure that you drive on an eco mode because you want to be fuel efficient, right? And a sure way to run into problems is when you're not starting your journey with a tank, with your full tank. Or if it's an EV car, if you didn't charge your car, then it's going to be a biggest problem, right? So the most important thing after the conversation that you have had, after you did the patient expectation, the important thing here is that you have to start with a very, very good refraction, right? So this means that maximum plus, and you have to choose the lowest add power, okay? Minimum addition and maximum plus, okay? And also you have to make sure that the addition is acceptable for their functional vision at near, right? So as a rule of thumb, you know that age appropriate addition is about 1 to 5 in their 40s, and then plus 150 plus 175 in their 50s, or plus 2, right? And then higher ads are for 60 or late 50s, right? So if you when you did refraction, and if you actually arrive at a very high ad, then you should actually go back to your refraction or spherical, if you can see if you can push more plus at the distance, right? And also, right, maximizing the illumination in the room can also be very helpful. So sometimes I would recommend you using a trial frame instead of a phoropter, so that you can really adjust the distance for near, and it'll be much easier in that way. Okay. And like I said, use sensory dominance is very important, and make sure it's in the real space, and use real lighting conditions so that they can actually experience the real world that they go through, right? And make sure it is also binocular, right? You make sure open both eyes when you do this. Right. And the next one is actually determining the functional add. Okay. What does it mean by functional add? Functional add is based upon the preferred working distance for the patient. So whichever preferred working distance that patient likes, whether they are looking at their phone, whether they are looking at their, a book or an iPad or anything, whatever working distance that they like, and whatever font size that they are used to, right? So you make them hold their phone or iPad or a receipt or a watch, whatever, at their preferred distance, and then you add plus until they can read the preferred font comfortably. So that's functional vision. So it is very important not to overplus the ad. And if you overplus the ad, then later they might have issues with distance power. So you must remember, you should not increase ad. You must just give just nice for functional vision. Okay. All right. Let's try one more poll. I think this is the last poll for today. So once you have fitted a multifocal lens and the patient reports the distance vision is clear, and near vision is slightly blurred while they're looking on the phone, how will you tackle this situation? So the near is slightly blurred and the distance is clear, right? Either you will increase add, or you will add a plus power to the non-dominant eye. So the poll is up, I think. And yeah, I can see some answers coming in. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your participation. I think almost over 90% of people are saying that they would add plus power to the distance correction, and a handful of them would want to increase the addition power.
Yeah, good. So great answers. The correct answer is definitely to be able to add plus power to the distance corrections, right? In the non-dominant. Try not to meddle with the ad that you have given, because the ad is now fixed, because you have done the functional ad, and you don't want to increase any more ad, right? So you just go back to the non-dominant eye and you just try to add a little bit on the sphere, right? Let's say if it's a +3, just add a +3 to 5 just to see if now they can see the near better, okay? And usually it will help. Okay, right. When you are driving again, right, you will usually use the assist mode, right? So it's very important to let the lens settle, right? We always give the brain some time to adapt to the lens, right? And then we will assess it with the real time or meaningful task for the customer or the patient himself, right? Usually mobile devices is something that is very handy. It's always with them. Do not use any kind of acuity chart, right? It's more of trying to make sure that they can function 80% of the time. So just use their mobile devices and whatever their usual task is, right? And I also like to emphasize this one, demo self-adjustment, right? Which is like increasing the light on the phone, right? That means increasing some illumination or adding some light during their task in a desk or in an office situation. Also, changing the working distance a little bit. So this kind of self-adjustment will really help. I've realized that, many people don't talk about this because they feel a little bit shy knowing, increasing light or changing the font, making them feel like they are old. I think we as an ECP, we have to really change this mindset for them that it is okay. And what is more important is for them to comfortably work and comfortably see their near vision clearly. So I think it's a mindset change that we can really emphasize during our communication that, self adjustment is fine and we can demo to them and see how much it improves their near vision. Okay. And adaptation and visual assessment. So normally 10 minutes is what recommended as adjusting time. But in my personal opinion, I would say give them more time, maybe 10 minutes in your setup. Yes. And you want to probably check the fitting and make sure it's right. And, probably just check the VA, just make sure what are they seeing at that point of time. Let patient wear the lens for the whole day or maybe half a day. Let them try for 1 or 2 days and then come back for enhancement, right? So let me tell you a story, a very quick one. So I had tried on multifocal contact lenses, and it took me almost 40 minutes to get all the vision, like distance, intermediate, and near vision clear, right? Initially, when I put on the lenses, in 10 minutes time, my distance was blur and my near was clear, right? So imagine if I was just given 10 minutes to settle and to adapt and immediately change my power or change my lens power, where I actually managed to adapt that particular lens after 40 minutes. So I told you initially in 10 minutes, my distance was blur, my near was clear. And then after some time, like about 20 to 25 minutes, my distance became clear and my near became blur. Okay, so that was neural adaptation where my brain was just trying to adapt to that optics, right? And trust me not, after 40 minutes, suddenly I saw everything clear, right? I was surprised myself and I was very taken aback. Like, what if an ECP would just, change my power then, which I actually did not have to. The optics of the lens can work by itself and the refraction that was done was perfect. So it's just some people, the neural adaptation takes more time and some people can get it in 10 minutes. So give every patient the time that they need, right? Let them try it on. If they are letting you know that in 10 minutes time, they're saying, oh, my, near is slightly compromised. I want to adjust this a little bit. Just give them a little bit more time before you change, right? And always use real world environment. Always make sure that you are showing them, like the signboards, or showing them some, ingredients on the bottles that they used to read, those kind of real life environment. Okay, so don't be a lead foot. So think of this whole process as a journey, and it's not a race, right? Going slow, allowing this neural adaptation is actually the goal. So remember the game Jenga. I believe everyone played this Jenga game before. You never pull it out in a fast beat, right? You will make sure that you go really slow, you're really focused. So that is one thing that I would, request all ECP. Make sure that you are, going on this journey and allowing everything to happen and settle on its own, rather than, rushing into it and, rushing into selling the contact lenses and eventually, end up with a lot of other issues. Okay, so another very important thing that I would also like to emphasize here is that follow the fit guide. Okay, make sure that you follow or maintain the fitting guideline, right? It's very important. Any brand or any manufacturers, they have a fitting guideline, and each manufacturer has got their own method of fitting. So it is very, very important to follow their way for their particular lenses, right? Okay, so presbyopia is a journey only if you start. So start right now. Make sure every patient that you see who's leading towards presbyopia, start communicating already. Okay, so before I finish my session, I would like to just share a case study so that we can learn together. So this female, 51 years old, and she has got a history of reusable soft contact lens, multifocal wear. And she always have mentioned that distance is good, but struggling a little bit with reading. So what she does is she wears over-the-counter readers for computer and sometimes reading. Okay, so a multifocal wearer, she wears a OTC readers on top, right? So currently, she's wearing a +3 low at and left eye +2.25 low at. Okay, so this is her history. Okay. Now, with subjective refraction, you can see that her right eye is +325, -075 cylinder, 170 axis, and left eye is +250, -075, axis at 5, and an addition of +175. So this is a fresh subjective refraction. All right. I want you to just go on mentally, just think about it. What could be her spherical equivalent in this case? Let me just give you 5 seconds. I'm not going to put up any poll. Just when you just think, I will give you the answer shortly. Just take a few seconds just to think what could be the subjective refraction's spherical equivalent. Okay, so the answer is +3 on the right eye and a +2.25 on the left eye. Okay, here's the rationale how. So if you do a sphere plus half sail, you actually get +2.875 and +2.125, right? So when you round up, you always round up to the greater plus, right? So you'll make it +3 and you'll make it 2.25. So I hope you understand that part. Okay, and then, right, once the vertex distance and spherical equivalent is done, you have got this power. So usually what you can do, you can use the manufacturer's fitting guideline or fitting calculator to get this power. So you don't really have to crack your head. You put in the subjective refraction power into the calculator, you will get the vertex distance spherical equivalent power already, right? Now, when they perform the eye dominancy on this particular patient, when they did the sighting method, which is the triangular method, they got right eye as dominant. And when they did the sensory method, which is the +1 blur test, they have got left eye. So you can see that this patient gave 2 different answers with 2 different tests or method, right? Okay, so what would be the best initial pair? Just think about it. I give you 5 seconds. So as we have learned, sensory method should be the way we should follow. So with sensory method in this patient, left eye or OS is dominant, right? So we want to give, we make sure that left eye is dominant, right? So the answer is +3 mid-add and 2 to 5 mid-add. So this you can get also from the fitting guideline. It will directly tell you which is the addition that you should be giving. Okay. Now, with the initial pair, which is a +3 mid-add and 2 to 5 mid-add, patient have said that the distance is good, but the near, she needs a little bit more optimization. Okay, it's okay for her, but she just want it to be a little bit more clearer. And you can see the VA here. On the right eye is about 6.6 minus, on the left eye is 6.6, and N4 for both near. However, patient just wants a little bit more optimization at near. So what should you do to optimize the near vision? Right? So remember, sensory method, left eye is the dominant eye. So if you want to, emphasize on near, we want to touch the non-dominant eye, which is the right eye. Okay, so what we want to do is that we want to add plus 0 to 5, a small plus in the distance power of the right eye, which is the non-dominant eye. And we maintain the left eye, right, to see if there's any improvement in the optimization of near vision. And what happened here is that patient appreciated initial lens comfort and was excited to try the lens. And she did purchase and have been successfully wearing the lenses for the past 6 months. Okay, so with this, you really know that the dominancy of the eye is very, very important. On how we determine the dominancy is also very, very important. So I hope this gave you a little bit of insights. And I just want to highlight here a little bit, with adding the plus on the right eye, you can see that the VA has dropped a little, right? Earlier it was 6.6 minus, but now it's 6.7.5. However, her near vision improved to N3. So this is functional vision. Patient is okay with compromising a little bit on the right eye for distance and giving it a much better near. So this is how patient like it. So you can, go with this power eventually. All right. Okay. So this is my last slide. Key to success mainly is agreement on what good looks like, right? So it's mainly the conversation, very, very important, setting the expectation or setting the goals right in the very, very beginning. It has to be realistic. It has to meet the unmet, right? And then secondly, it's your skill, ECP skill, where it has to be accurate refraction. Make sure it's a maximum plus at distance, acceptable, and also not to over minus the near, right? And with this, you can use the red-green balance method so that you don't go wrong, right? And then to make sure you have maximum binocular summation, you can make sure that you use the sensory method to make sure the ocular dominance, right? And that way you don't really run too much in your binocular summation. And functional add is another one where you have to make sure that you're using their phone, their iPad, natural lighting, so that the real world environment is, simulated. And following the guideline or the fit guide from the manufacturers using the digital calculator will make sure that your fit is successful, right? Okay, so start the journey and practice makes perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive tips. I think most of the tips are something which you can straight away, put into practice if you have not already started doing these, because this will ensure that you are able to fit your patients with the maximum success you can, right? So I think there is one question which came in when you were talking about, refraction. One attendee wants to kind of ask your opinion. Are hyperopes difficult to fit compared to myopes? Is there such concept of fitting a hyperope is difficult compared to fitting a myope in multifocal contact lens?
Okay, that's a very good question. I always wondered the same as well last time. However, I think it's all depends on your refraction skills. And what I felt is that hyperope seems to be slightly more easier, right? Because I'm a hyperope myself, and I realized that the distribution of power between a plus, as in distance, and also it moves towards a plus add, the distribution of power, the optics, is much easier to the brain. It's forgiving to the eye compared to a myope fitting into an ad. A very high myope, you will see some struggles to get some balance between distance and near, right? To get the balance, sometimes you will have to compromise one of the vision. Like you have to, make sure distance is just 6'9" to get a good near VA or the other way around. But I realized with hyperopes, it's slightly more easier. However, hyperopes also suffer a little bit of, because they are not used to wearing their plus, and eventually when they go into presbyopic age, they start wearing their plus. Their adaptation takes a little bit more time. The eye strain and the whole headache. They tend to get some headache, some binocular changes that happens. So this requires more time for them, more time to get adapted, to get used to it. So it took me, like, I am a real example of hyperope fitting a multifocal contact lenses. It took me some time. So like I told you, 40 minutes to actually see that initial trial lens fit to see clear. And after that, it also took me some time to get used to this plus at distance and at near. So it took me some time, but I feel like it's all depends on how we set the expectation, how we do our refraction, and how we fit the patient, right? It all depends on whether how it will be successful or not. Equally, we can work for both parties, like myopes or hyperopes.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because myopes tend to have that natural ability for near viewing. So I think they are mostly used to removing their glasses and enjoy their near vision. But if you are able to communicate to them that, putting on the lenses, you can enjoy both the worlds with some compromises, of course, for your distance as well as for the near. I think they should be able to understand. So your tip number one is really important when it comes to communicating beforehand. Before even putting on the lenses, you must sit down and discuss all of these. That of course you are enjoying your natural near vision at this point in time. Once we put on the lenses, you're going to have both of the worlds. You will see your distance, you will see your near, and will ensure that you're able to maximize for both. So that's the advantage of putting you on with the lenses. So communication is really important. Yeah.
Yes, perfect, Fakrudin. You have,
Okay.
summarized the whole thing very well. Thank you.
Yeah. And the other question is, in terms of your vision assessment, you did mention about realistic scenarios. Use their ipad, use their phones rather than using VA charts for your near vision, because you want to see their daily activities has been improved or not, right? What's your thought about binocular vision in this? Do you base your judgment on using binocular VA rather than monocular VAs, or what's your preference? Is there such importance of binocular VA or not?
Yes, definitely binocular VA. So once you finish your subjective refraction and determining your red, green, your duochrome monocularly, and then on, you are all binocular. right? So when you put on the addition, it's all binocular. Do not occlude their eyes monocularly, because that will again, disrupt. So you have balanced the eyes in a way, and just keep it binocular. Just keep it as how natural they are. So what we want to achieve here is functional vision, like rightfully as you said. So we want to make sure that they are able to function, because this is optics that we are talking about, going into this small piece of lens in front of our eyes, right? So we want to make sure that they can function 80% of their activities without the hassle of wearing a pulse lens or a readers, right? So we just want to make sure functionally they can really do things at near, and they can, just live happily that way. So definitely binocular vision. So do not occlude, and everything else, just continue with binocular vision. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. And one other question is regarding astigmatism. I know you did mention that we are almost there to receive, the benefits of multifocal toric contact
Yeah.
lenses. But what if we have a patient who has significant astigmatism? What are your tips on helping them with still fitting them with whatever we have now? Would you advise top on, toric prescription spectacles or some other tips which you can advise?
So I've done this in my own practice as well. So great question, Fakrudin. So I think, the high astig or the moderate astig presbyopes, they feel left out. Like, oh, okay, I can't fit multifocal now. And, they feel a little bit left out. And yes, the innovation pipeline is right around the corner. It's coming anytime. However, I've done it myself. So I've fitted multifocal. And like you rightfully said, put on a toric lenses just for their driving, right? So whenever they were driving, so they needed a much clearer vision in distance without distortions. So they have, did a toric lenses alone, right? Spectacles, and they put it on top. I've done that. And I also have done one case where I did a modified fitting, one eye with multifocal and the other eye is with full toric lenses. So I've done that also, but that is definitely is the modified way. It comes with your skills, and if you can, achieve some kind of vision distance and near, happy patient at the same time, then you can proceed with that. But of course, setting expectation at this point is also very important, making sure that you patient knows what exactly they are putting on their eyes, right? So yeah, I've done those two. So those are my two things that I will usually do. But again, if they really want, that's how we do it. We compromise distance. So only when they are driving or when they really need to have this clear, sharp vision, then put on the glasses. However, also that depends on how high the astig is, and it's a little bit subjective, but these are the few things that we have done in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to be creative with the optics in some way, either by add-on spectacles or doing some kind of monovision, or as you said, sometimes there are instances where you want to give a toric on one eye and a multifocal on the other, but that can be only for certain occasions as well. It doesn't have to be all the time. Let's say they want to go out for some events where they need to have good amount of distance and near, so that can be occasional monovision, but most of the time they are still on multifocals, and you can modify the optics and play around. I mean, the advantage is you can play around with the optics in so many ways, either by a tap on spectacles or giving them an extra pair of contact lenses for certain activities. So think and be more creative. And I think most of the manufacturers, will tell you that 98% patients can be fitted with multifocal lenses. You have to be, as ECP, also creative to make it even higher. I think we can fit almost 99% in this creativity as well. So we have to be creative. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. So thank you. Thank you so much, Uma. I think we have had a great session and a good amount of clinical discussion as well. Thank you so much for taking out this time and doing the session for us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Fakrudin, for having me. It's been a great pleasure. It's the year end, and we are still, joining online and learning. And I'm very grateful for everyone who joined and listened up until it's about 10 p.m. here. So thank you, everyone, and hope to see you again next year with more learnings and more teachings, so that we all can grow as an ECP together. And Happy New Year, everybody! And yep, thank you so much again.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining. I know this is like an holiday festive season, so wishing everybody in advance for the upcoming year. So take care everyone, be safe and enjoy the time with your friends and family, and we hope to see you in the new year. Take care and bye bye. Thanks Uma, bye.
Yeah, bye.